All right. It's Wednesday. At least I think it is. I don't know if you guys have been experiencing the same thing as me, but my days just run together. Uh, when you're running after something hard um, and you wake up excited and you get going and you're working from the moment you wake up till you go to sleep, a lot of things just, the lines get blurred, but it's good. I wouldn't have it any other way. Super blessed and grateful for everything that's going on for myself and for everybody that works at our corporation. Really excited about all the things that we're doing and some of the things that we're going to be able to talk about in the very near future. Some of the partnerships that we are currently working on and finalizing to bring to you guys. There's a lot of the stuff that I don't know how long you guys have been here, right? I'm sure that there's people watching that have been here for 5, 6, 7 years. Um, all the way back to 2017. I met some people today that've been in since 2017. Almost that's 8 years ago at this point, right? Which seems wild to say, but time goes by quickly. And the whole time that I've been here, and when I say here, I just mean in the XRP family, involved the community, having conversations about stuff, and really even in crypto and the broader ecosystem, people have been talking about banks adopting this stuff, institutions coming in, the real adoption of these assets as an asset class in capital markets, and then also for the actual applications where they would be able to create efficiencies and improve processes and reduce frictions and costs, and actually provide the value that I think a lot of people that are in the ecosystem understand that they can. And yet we're still here. It's a speculative Wild West. Regulation seems to be coming. We got some guidance from the SEC yesterday, which we'll talk about. But all of these things that people have wanted for these assets are things that we're actively working on at Digital Wealth Partners and at Digital Ascension Group. The ability to hold your asset in a bank account or an account that you own, segregated, bankruptcy remote, insured, in set up in a way where your family would get the assets if God forbid something happens to you, and then you get all the bells and whistles too. You can lend it out and earn returns on it. You could delegate it in some capacity to something else where it's generating yield, but the asset never leaves the account. You can put it in other opportunities there with the bank or the partner that's generating returns for you that you can trust because you know that they're not going anywhere. And if they did, there's actual ramifications for it. They're not some offshore crazy entity that can run off with your stuff and then you're just stuck with no recourse, which many people have unfortunately experienced in digital assets over the past 7 years while it's been the Wild West. And lines of credit, the ability to borrow against it at a very modest interest rate, a reasonable interest rate with underwriting against the assets, the actual risk on the asset. That's still not quite here yet, but we're a lot closer than we used to be. You're starting to see a lot of people come in and use these as treasury assets in their corporation, which is a big deal. We've got these companies that are, kind of mimicking MicroStrategy. You got one for B&B, also listed on public stock exchange. You got a couple treasuries coming in to buy large allocations of XRP, holding in their treasury. And I think you're going to see more and more of that, especially for corporations that are going to be able to leverage the assets in some capacity for their business model. If they're implementing these networks, excuse me, in some capacity where it actually benefits their business and they need to hold the token that they use on that network to be able to facilitate their business activities, I think that's probably where the cap gains benefit's going to come in. I think it'll be a qualified capital gains tax reduction. I would love it if it's across the board and there's just no capital gains if it's an American-based crypto. But I feel like, that's probably too good to be true on a real scenario that'll play out. I do think that there'll be qualifiers around it. You'll probably have to use it in business transactions in some capacity in order to mitigate those capital gains when buying, selling, transferring the assets. So as a capital asset or part of your treasury strategy, I think this is a very compelling play. All of the clients that we help set up their holding company to manage their investments, they have a specific allocation to crypto within that portfolio of their alternative investments. That's how we structure the corporation. We do that through a very specific means. There in Wyoming, set things up a specific way so that you get all the tax benefits without siloing yourself in a crypto company type situation, where you can't use this for anything else as you continue to expand or diversify your investments over the long term. It allows you to manage the assets. You're still in complete control of them. You get charging order protection against creditors that might try to sue you personally. You want to maintain the corporate veil doing that. We help people. We make sure that that's done so that they're not ever at risk. Commingling funds between their personal entity or their personal bank accounts and the entity bank accounts. We move the assets in there tax-free. Other people don't know how to do that. Or they make it way too complicated, where you have to buy another ledger underneath the corporation and send a transaction and do a bunch of stuff. We make it as seamless and easy as possible for our clients to be successful. And we'll continue to do that as we continue to iterate and build out these other services and products for the digital assets for you to, enjoy streams of income, be able to borrow against them, set up your family bank, structure your family office, all the insurance policies. There's all kinds of stuff that we're continually innovating on and bringing to market. And we do have some really good partnerships that I'm excited to announce in the near future as soon as we finalize some things that I think you guys will find very compelling and excited. You'll also be as excited as I am. It was probably, 2 months ago when I got on here and was really happy on one Monday. Just had a lot of really good things happen that Monday. And a lot of those things have finally started to culminate and come to fruition. And I'm excited to be able to share those things with you as soon as we're able. So it's what I wanted to start with tonight. Just really excited to be here. Talk about the SEC a little bit before we get into the questions. We'll run it down here in the chat like we do every Monday and Wednesday night. If you do have any questions, please post it over here on YouTube. I try to make sure all the super chats get answered. I got one. Cheyenne, I missed you again. I don't know how I keep missing you, sweetheart, but get your super chat answered first before anybody else's. But on the SEC's guidance, they actually put out some guidance, which was great. So this is them actually being proactive instead of, regulating by enforcement and trying to squash the innovation here in the US. It's really cool to see that they're actually putting out frameworks and things for people to operate under and what they're going to consider not a security. So liquid staking, not a security, which is super cool. So if you are participating in a liquidity pool, or you've delegated you delegated proof of stake, or you've actually staked your asset in a validator or a node that's participating on the network, and it's generating returns for you, and you get a representation of value of that interest, that itself is not a security. And then you can go do whatever you're going to do with it. Thank you, babe. My wonderful wife with the tea. She's always great. And I do have a tickle in my throat tonight, so this should help. I don't know about you guys, like the sinuses starting to flare up here at the end of summer. I don't know if you guys are getting that or not. There's me and a few of our employees also. So with that, I think you're going to see a proliferation of DeFi, come into the institutional world. I think it's still going to be a little bit of time, just working with these institutions. They are hesitant. There are potential problems with DeFi. Any smart contract up to this point we've seen can be compromised in some capacity. I think once we get some more quantum resistant type encryption around the integrity of the institutions, I think they're going to feel a lot more comfortable about, utilizing smart contracts that are permissioned inside their ecosystem in order to participate between counterparties. I know Flair, I've had Hugo on the show. Hopefully you guys checked out that podcast that I've done with him. It was probably, 6 weeks ago. We had Hugo on, which was really cool. And he talked about the stable coin potentially backed by XRP and the ability to take that and then put it in Flare and generate returns that way. There's going to be a lot of overlapping and looping stuff, which people already do. Leverage is what people like to do. And so as things progress here, just be aware of that. Simple scales, fancy fails is a saying that I have. So, if somebody can't explain something simply to you on how something is actually earning interest, it's probably a scam. Or some quant that is extremely intelligent put it together and they haven't figured out how to articulate that to the average person in a way that's understandable. Those are the only two options. I've seen both. I've seen scams that, were like a Fugazi and they try to like elaborately explain things that don't make sense. And then I have seen some where it's just, as an example, like tax credits for solar. There's a bunch of different ways you can spin that. 10 ways from Sunday, and how companies can make money like 5 different ways doing that. It's hard to explain. It's hard to get an investment because it's hard to explain. It can be lucrative and it can actually work, but it's hard to explain to investors. And so most people are hesitant, especially the wealthier you get. I think that that's a good principle to live by. If you can't simply understand something, or somebody that you're investing with can't simply explain it to you, probably don't do it. And there may be sometimes you miss out. Look at Warren Buffett. He missed out on Apple for a long time. Still got in eventually and still made a bunch of money after it was around and established for a while. So this person's asked, what do you think will happen with Ripple banking license? I think that they'll probably get approved. The word on the streets in November this year. That's hearsay, rumors. I don't know if that's legitimate or not. That's just, some of the communication that I've heard spinning. We'll see. Take it with a grain of salt. So lots of things will run down tonight. Hopefully you guys get some value from this. I always forget to say it, so I'm going to say it here at the beginning. If you do find value from these, it is really appreciated. If you would like, subscribe, share this with somebody that you think it's valuable for. The channel's over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube now, which is just mind-blowing. So again, shout out to you guys. That's not possible without you guys subscribing to the channel and sharing this with people. It's very, very much appreciated. I'm super grateful and feel very blessed. So thank y'all. Go ahead and hop in. Oh, just kidding. I got to get to Cheyenne's first. She says, when do you think the reverse carry trade will begin? Well, it's already ongoing. It has been ongoing for 20 plus years. I'm assuming what you're actually asking is when the unwind will begin. And that actually already started too. That started in August, about a year ago today. Actually, a year and a day ago. We had 13% down in the S&P in one day. The Nikkei was down, huge amount in one day. Obviously, they paused and didn't raise rates anymore. And they assured the market that as long as there was market volatility, they wouldn't do it. So now that that's been quelled, we did get the job numbers here in the US that were higher. There's higher unemployment than the mandate. So it's an 80% chance that the Fed will lower rates in September. They're going to have to. And the CPI or the CPI, whatever you want to call it, says that we don't have any inflation or anywhere. We're far under the number that they're required to maintain, which is 2%. So raising interest rates, or lowering interest rates, excuse me, would potentially cause some inflation. It would cause the velocity of money to pick up. You have 2 metrics on inflation. One of those is M2 money supply, and then how much money there is, and then velocity of money, which is how fast it's changing hands in the economy. The illustration for that would be like, I pay a cab driver, the cab driver buys a hot dog, the hot dog guy goes buys dinner. That same dollar transferred hands 3 times in one day. Right now, we are at the lowest velocity of money that's ever occurred in history. People are hoarding cash, holding on to it very tightly, not putting it out into the market because rates are higher. They're not, refinancing homes. There's a bunch of stuff. The currency is not flowing like you would want it to. But again, with the advent of blockchain and stable coins and a lot of this other stuff, I do think that you're going to see money start to move much faster. The velocity of money will pick up, and that will allow them to reduce M2 money supply unless we have significant deflation across the economy, and then they could actually print more money to offset the deflation and maintain price stability. So I know it's a weird dynamic and like a hard concept to wrap your mind around, but I think that's how they end up doing the UBI thing. And don't shoot the messenger. I don't want UBI any more than anybody else. I feel like it's a foregone conclusion that it's coming at this point. I feel like 2020 was a test to check all that out, to see how it would be received by the public. And obviously everybody took their stem check and was very happy to have it. So I think it'll be some similar capacity where they kind of shell out money to people on a regular basis, but it'll be on blockchain. And so, I don't think it'll be a CBDC. I think it'll be a freedom dividend. Like, they'll spin it and make it sound good. But at the end of the day, it'll be universal basic income that a certain portion of the population gets or receives, and they'll incentivize you to spend it in certain sectors of the economy to be able to offset, different deficits as they kind of come across. But back to the reverse carry trade. Still waiting on a spike in oil. That's my tell at this point. A lot of people have speculated it's tariffs or there's something else. I think it may have something to do with the nuclear submarines and some of the stuff that's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. I still think that there's going to be something there. I could be wrong. Been wrong before. I thought 75K was the top for Bitcoin. Was wrong. Obviously, it's much higher than that now. So I've been wrong before. I'm a lot more confident in this one based on some other things than I was that comment or prediction. So rub my crystal ball. Thanks, Al. And that's what it's telling me. I'm pretty confident there's going to be something where oil spikes. And again, this is Jim Rickards' whole thing. This isn't mine. Like, he came up with this and put it out in 2014, went and talked to the Pentagon and the Fed and like put together a whole game plan. But it will cause the unwind of the reverse carry trade because soaring energy prices would lead to significant inflation there in the economy in Japan. They would have to aggressively raise interest rates to be able to offset that inflation. And that would then cascade into the reverse carry trade unwinding. So that's what I'm watching for, Cheyenne. Hopefully that's helpful for you. And again, really excited about the other side of the reverse carry trade unwinding. While it's going on, it is going to be chaos. Fly fishing Jeremy, what's up, brother? He says, thank you for the super chat. He says, JC of XRP. Yes, I did give you the silver bar. Plan on a larger one the next meetup. Odd question. What size shoe do you wear? Give your disclaimer. Everyone join the Beyond Broke Mastermind. Like, sub, share. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And thank you again for the silver. I have it here on the channel, just so you guys know. He hooked it up with a 1 ounce silver bar, and it's got a little engraving on the back. It's pretty cool. Gave it to me at XRP Vegas when we threw our Mastermind event there. We had 300 people. We rented out the top of, was it Mandalay Bay? Yeah, Mandalay Bay. They've got the foundation room. We rented that out for the whole evening and put that on for our Mastermind members. We have more in real life events than any other group out there if you join the Mastermind. And yeah, really excited about that. We got another one coming up here in Dallas in September. We'll get the date out to everybody here in the near future. They're in the group, and then finalizing things for San Francisco later this year. I know we talked about Chicago. I cannot find a venue in Chicago that is a reasonable price. I've got a few other people that I need to talk to there, so we'll reach out and see if we can get something done. But unfortunately, it's looking less and less likely that that one's going to happen. But we will have Dallas. We will have the date for you guys. If you join the Mastermind, you'll know when that is and where it is. And then same thing over there in San Francisco, finalizing stuff on that as well. Back to the question here, shoe size. Depends what type of shoe it is. But a 11 and a half is the shoe size, but it's a wide. I got a duck foot. I don't know if you guys have that problem too. But yeah, my feet are a little wide. They always have been. It's not like I've grown into it, or some women have a child and their feet get a little bit bigger. God bless them, and haven't had to deal with that, thank God. But yeah, I don't know what. Don't send me shoes, man. It depends on the boot too. Sometimes the boot is a different size. We got changed my name because of Jake. Yes, thank you. He says, said so good. Hey Jake, is the Russia oil scenario going to be the golden egg? Right, UK. Cheers, brother. Thank you for the good laugh. It's been a long day. That's why I like getting on here with you guys. You cut up with me and you make it a good time. Yeah, I think that there's a Russian submarine type situation that I think could exacerbate. Maybe it is to do with Russia and oil there. Maybe it's not the Middle East. I'm confident that it's going to be oil that causes the spike and drives the Bank of Japan to have to raise interest rates aggressively. JRB, what's up? He says, Jake, loving the mastermind. That's awesome to hear, dude. Thank you for being part of it. What would it take to break your conviction in XRP? Still $3 in December, maybe $3. There's very little adoption in December 2026, or we die, or do we die on the XRP hill? I've been here a long time. It's not like, I mean, I was talking about this when it was 20 cents, 50 cents, 70 cents, dollars, back down. I don't want to say my will is unbreakable, but damn near. I know what it is. I've talked to enough people to know it's going to be used. And I'm here for the ROI, and I will hang out as long as I need to be for that ROI. If you could take 5 years and completely change multiple generations to come for your family, like, I'll pay that price every day. If it's uncertainty, if it is, just having faith and belief when other people do not, and watching others falter, and you continue, I'm here for that. I have a high pain tolerance. I put up with a lot of stuff. I carry it on my back. Do it every day. So, yeah. I mean, if you say die on the hill, like, it's kind of like the Will Smith thing. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that. He's like, only difference between me and somebody else is we both get on a treadmill. I would die before the other person beat me on the treadmill. Like, I got to fall out. And so sometimes grit like that can be a good thing. Sometimes you do need to know when to quit. I'm actually reading a book right now. It's called Quit. And it talks about when to quit. In the opening chapter, she talks about Muhammad Ali knocking out George Foreman after being held away from fighting and stripped of his title in his early 30s, and then just continuing to fight all the way up into his early 40s when the world was telling him not to. He even was banned basically from fighting at Madison Square Garden and went to go fight in the Bahamas. And like, just sad, like, kept getting beat. And he obviously had, brain trauma from everything, and ended up with Parkinson's. And it's pretty apparent that those last 8 years that he was fighting led to a lot of the problems he had later in life. So there's definitely a point where you want to go out on top. I've seen a couple people stick it out longer than they should have on things, and you're like, I get it. I get the pride. I get the ego. But man, like, I'll tell you somebody that did it well. Chris Bumstead. I don't know if you guys follow bodybuilding at all. Obviously, I used to be a bodybuilder, follow classic physique. He won 6 Olympias in a row and left on top. said, this is my last one. I'm going to focus on my family. I've got my child now. You know, I want to retire while I'm ahead. And he rolled before he lost, right? Lee Haney, another great example in bodybuilding. And again, I'm giving these just because it's a sport I'm familiar with and I have a very, you know, in-depth knowledge of the history on it. 8 Mr. Olympias and left on top. And then he beat out Dorian Yates, who ended up winning the next year and then going on to be 6-time Mr. Olympia. So anyway, there are people that know when to quit and do a good job. It's not time to quit yet on XRP. Nicole, she says, hello, our brave leader. If 20 years from now, someone other than me comes across my cold storage with passcodes, who is accountable? Can they cash them in if they found them because I died, or if I give it as a gift? I'll give you an example. My wife's father used to manage apartment complexes and do a lot of work in those complexes. One day he was renovating a space, and him and the guy that were doing it, they were getting a new fridge and putting it in there. And they took the old fridge and I know you're like, what does this have to do with it? Just hold on a second. They throw it down the stairs because it's on the second story. The fridge busts open and cash goes everywhere. So like people back, you know, even until recently would hoard cash in their mattress or other places. Whose cash is that? They found it. The person that lived there is gone. No longer their apartment. If they pick it up and buy it and use it, or use it to buy something, did they steal it? No. Is it the apartment complexes? They didn't even know it was there. So, you know, I can't really give you like a clear answer on this one. It's pretty much, it's a gray area, just like that fridge and that money. So that they get their choice. They now have the asset. Ownership is like 9/10 of the law. Or what is possessions 9/10 of the law? Is it the other way? I can tell you it's not with car vehicles. If you don't have the title, it's a bad day. If you tried to buy a car and it's stolen, and somebody else has the title, like they're taking it. Anyway, back to this deal here. Like that cash and that crypto is kind of the same in my book. It's a gray area. And you know, if it went to that wallet and there wasn't a clear association of that wallet with an individual of some capacity, they could tell that you bought it and sent it there a long time ago on chain. I mean, we can see, you know, Bitcoin wallets that haven't moved since 2010 are now starting to move, you know, 14, 15 years later. But that Bitcoin was mined, right? So it's a little bit different than buying it on an exchange and exchanging that cash in your account and then moving it there. That's kind of auditable. Whereas mining a Bitcoin, like who was running the node? You don't even know. Kind of who was doing the cash? You know who's hiding the cash? You don't know. One of the tenants that lived in that location, but they're not there anymore. So I'm beating this one, but like the gray area, I would assume that it would then be theirs, and they would just assume that ownership at that cost basis is how I would look at it. If they spent it, gifted is a different story. Like if you filled the 709 out and then they got it tax free, then cool, you could gift it to them. But then there's a clear transfer of ownership and the cost basis. But if they just find it, like, is it income? Do they have to report it? Can they just borrow against it and move it somewhere into an account? I think there's going to be a lot more of this. Like, and that's why the IRS, you know, at the end of last year kind of gave some guidance and tried to get people to assess their cost basis and tell them like, hey, here's your quarter. Like you can just tell us what your cost basis was and now it's set there. Because they don't want to go back and have to deal with all that. So here's Cheyenne again. She paid another $5. She didn't have to do that, ma'am. I'm sorry. I got it. We got you answered. And I seen this one. I didn't miss it tonight. So thank you. We got Alan. What's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, Tommy Lee mentioned that Wall Street is exploring tokenization with a focus on ETH. However, it appears that XRP Ledger offers faster transaction speeds and lower cost. Which way do you think they will go and why? I think it will be a mix of both, Alan. So the XRPL does not have native smart contract capability. If they push hooks to the mainnet, maybe. Maybe it would be tokenized on the XRPL, but it's still like lightweight smart contracts, very similar to Sorban on XLM. You can't have, a bunch of robust functionality and still have the settlement at the speed that it does with the lowest cost that it does. So you're kind of on this bell curve of high cost and high latency. On the other side is super low cost and low latency, but doesn't have smart contract capability, and this side has a bunch of smart contract capability. I think what the compromise that's been had between JP Morgan and the gang is the EVM sidechain. Quite confident that RLUSD obviously is already, on that sidechain, and it's also on Ethereum, and I think that they're going to put it on some other networks as well. But to your point that you mentioned here, XRP for settlement of those transactions is much faster and cheaper than Ethereum. So the EVM, or the Ethereum virtual machine, and they've made an EVM side chain on the XRPL. I think that's probably where the majority of stablecoins end up, and they end up, settled through XRP. And then in addition to that, a lot of the RWAs and other things could be tokenized there as well, and would potentially be interoperable with other chains via Wormhole or Axelar. Would be the bridge to JP Morgan's network with Onyx. We're starting to see a full picture of how all these things are going to be interoperable and how multi-chain ecosystems are going to exist. But I think a lot of it's going to feed back to the XRPL for settlement because it is the best option in that capacity, right? So things are kind of layered. I view the EVM sidechain as kind of like one layer up from the XRPL. Things are transferred, values transferred, but it settles through XRP on the back end via those smart contracts on that chain. So just, again, my 2 cents. I'm just one guy. We'll see how everything ends up playing out. But to your point, I think it'll be a mixture of both. We got Mark. What's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, thanks for everything. Are you concerned with Flare, spelt differently than the Flare I know, or Circle when it comes to XRP price? Also pick one, Ondo or XDC, if you had to choose one. No, I have no concern at all when it comes to Flare or Circle for XRP. Circle is a stablecoin issue, and they have a money market strategy. They have a very boring business with USDC, prints a lot of money, makes a lot of money. They've been very successful. They're a publicly traded company now. They have a good business, but not everybody's going to want to use USDC, and they cannot pay returns to people for USDC. So anybody that's paying you returns on USDC is taking USDC and doing something else with it, with your deposit there, and then paying you a guaranteed yield. And they've got to be making more money than they're paying you. So if they're paying you a really high yield, just know they're taking a lot of risk to be able to pay that, and that there's problems potentially there. Won't name anybody specifically on that, but there's one fund in particular in Florida that I can think of. Now, just your general like 4.5% like Uphold, cool. They could be putting that to work in overnight repo at the current rate, clipping a point, and then passing the rest to you guys or their clients, right? Like that makes sense. That business model makes sense to me. But anybody that's doing more than that, concerning. And then Flare was dropped to XRP holders. Their whole user base is built off of people that believe in XRP, and they've worked with Ripple. They need XRP to be successful so that they can be successful. So there's no way that they would undermine the success of XRP or try to circumvent it or replace it. So that, just to kind of give you clarity on why I'm not worried about either one of those. If I got to pick one between XDC and Ondo, why am I investing? Like, I think you probably just want an implicit like ROI answer here. But depending on why I'm investing, I might invest in one over the other. As an example, let's say I've got 10 million XDC and I want to put them to work in a node. And now I'm earning 10% a year if it's a master node on that network. If it's a standby node, it's still 8% in XDC monthly payouts. Even if I thought Ondo would be more ROI, I might be looking for cash flow and I would invest in XDC. So, I do think that XDC is probably going to be greater ROI and cash flow. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. And also, if I wanted to tokenize treasuries or something else, I might utilize Ondo and the token to participate on that network. So if it's a business use case or like I was putting something together in that capacity, then I might leverage one versus the other. Or I might be in trade finance and want to build something on XDC and buy a bunch of XDC for that. So there's a lot of different constraints on why you would buy assets one over the other outside of just ROI. You also might look at the ability to leverage or borrow against things. If I'm doing it for that reason, I'm going to go Ondo all day because they have treasuries on their chain. The underwriting on that's going to be much lower risk than an XDC with the volatility of that asset over there. Probably, going to be able to get a better interest rate on that, be able to put up, get a higher LTV against Ondo versus XDC. There's more liquidity in Ondo versus XDC. So again, there's just a lot of considerations around why you would invest in one over the other. You asked me specifically. I would probably, I don't own either one. So this is completely hypothetical. Love both. Super bullish on both, just candidly. For me, the ROI on XRP is substantially greater than anything else that I think I'm going to see in my lifetime. And I think it'll be tier one collateral. So it'll be easy to borrow against at a very low interest rate. And we already have solutions to be able to generate returns with it, because that's where my focus has been. So, but if I had to pick one of those two that you mentioned, like gun to my head, probably XDC for long-term appreciation and the ability to generate cash flow off of it. That would be my go-to out of those two for that reason. If I was looking to borrow against it and do more of an infinite banking thing, it's probably Ondo. Nicole, wow, man, thank you so much for the super chat. She says, please understand how insanely proud your dad would be. You found the courage to leap and trust that the net would appear. You leapt and you're busting your ass. So we too can leap. You carried the initial fear for us. No matter how this plays out, you still jumped. Thank you. When he passed away, I don't know if other people get this or not, but I felt like he was always a backstop for me. And if I fell down, he'd be there. And I also really cared about his opinion, held it in high regard, and probably played it safer at some points because I knew that's what he would want me to do. You always want better for your kids, right? And I have my son, and I'm like, I see him about to fall or do something that's going to hurt him, and I get concerned, and I express that, and I have to walk that line because in my mind, I think about, what a wonderful journey this has been and how fantastic of a result it's turning into. And if you didn't have the courage to leap or pivot or change when you're scared, then, if you just fall back in line because it's safe and easy and you're not going to get hurt, then you won't get the upside where the risk is the reward, right? And so I think about that when parenting him. I let him fall. I'm there to catch him. Um, my dad did that to some effect too. But when he passed away, I took full responsibility for myself, my family, my future, all that stuff, which I didn't realize that I hadn't done that until he passed away. But once he did, and I knew there wasn't a backstop, I was like, okay, like it's on me. I have to do this. There's not anybody else that's coming to save me, type thing. So thank you for the kind words. And if I'm being realistic, I don't think I would be where I am today if he were still alive. I don't think I would have made a lot of the choices that I have made that have led me to this point if he hadn't passed away. So, he's in a better place. Still love him, still talk to him occasionally. But yeah, it's weird to say you're glad your parent passed away. He was ready to go, and he was suffering, and I'm glad that he's no longer suffering. So anyway, thank you again for the kind words, and yeah, I hope he is. I hope he's proud. Storm Striker, what's up, man? He says BTC looks bearish AF. Just from the charts, look at BTC chart on the weekly and then search up MMSM, minimum 70K target in 3 to 5 months. Your opinion? I think it can go much lower than that, much faster than that. I do think we have one more gasp of upside here in Bitcoin. Again, it's following a cyclical pattern. And I do think that we're going to have one more move to the upside, but that's when the rotation into alts will happen. It tends to be on the last leg for Bitcoin in the cyclical pattern that we've existed in. And then I think that's when things will start to change for more of a utility-based bull run on the other side of this. I think that other things will unwind at that point. You've already seen a lot of people start to take profits on Bitcoin here that have large bags of Bitcoin. There's been selling into the ETFs at these levels and rotations already into other positions. The people that have been here know how to play this game, and so do the bots. They're looking at market dynamics, and they're seeing the same thing as you, right? So they're already taking additional positions in other assets, liquidating their Bitcoin position and migrating into the volume on the ETFs. So I'm with you. I do think that Bitcoin drops substantially, maybe even by the end of the year. And I think it'll be correlated to the reverse carry trade and Tether and some of the other stuff I've discussed. So that's, again, just my personal opinion. Would love to be wrong. I want everybody to make $1 million on Bitcoin. I have my opinions, and I'm happy to share them. We've got Chad. What's up, Chad? He said, got denied at Mercury Bank 2, and they won't give me a reason on why. Any suggestion on alternative bank? What's the one that Kraken and everybody uses? Might try a credit union. Credit unions are starting to become more crypto friendly. The suggestion I would make is you don't say anything about crypto. Again, the reason we set up the LLCs in the specific manner that we do is it's an alternative investment holding company. It's a holding company that manages your alternative investments. That's what you say. You don't say anything about crypto. Now, in your operating agreement, if you got it from us, it's going to have a lot of special provisions to manage your crypto and make sure that you're meeting the specifications required, to manage that type of asset. But the bank's not going to even look at it. They're just going to go, okay, cool, you got an operating agreement. Like they catalog it. So in the conversations when you're setting up a bank account, if you've set up, and here in the near future, hopefully Mercury, we'll see if Mercury will do this or not, but we're looking, at solutions for banking partners, and maybe that'll be a solution where we're able to spin up accounts for people. But what I would do is I would go into a branch somewhere for some larger bank. We've had people have success at Capital One and some other larger banks. And again, when you're having the conversation, this is a holding company that manages your alternative investments. Don't say digital assets, don't say crypto. You're expecting a liquidity event in the next 6 to 12 months that's going to be in excess of 7 figures. And you want to be able to take that cash into this account when that happens. And they'll say, oh, that sounds great. We'll walk you right over here to our private banking side. That's a lot of money to most banks, of $1 million or more. And then you'll meet with them and you'll set your account up, and you want, even if you have to pay a little bit of money for like the high level account, if you don't keep enough money in there, maybe it costs you like, $50 a month or something. You want that high level account. Okay. If you're not keeping $50,000 or whatever the minimum is, it's still worth it. Because when you go to liquidate, you want to be able to liquidate that account and not get frozen. Especially if you've been there for 12 months, like they're not going to freeze it. They have enough history with you. They have banking transactions. You've done some business through it. Do a little bit of business through it. Like, even if it's just pay for your gas in your vehicle for your business, like do that. Run some transactions through the bank account, through your private banking account. But again, do not mention crypto. Don't mention digital assets. It's a holding company that manages your alternative investments. And if they want an NAICS code, which they will, you tell them 55111-2 or 55111-4. Both of those are the NAICS codes for a holding company that manages investments. And they'll go, oh, it pulled up. It's right here. Thank you. If you set up a crypto trading company and you give them that code, they will flag it. They will not open an account for you. If you say crypto in the onboarding process, if you flag them in any way that is a crypto-based business, nada. They are not opening that account for you, and they will escort you out the door. I hope that with the regulations around this stuff and the temperature of the SEC changing and the Genius Act and the Clarity Act and all these other things that are coming down the pike, it'll pivot and change, and banks will be more friendly toward crypto. They'll be friendly toward crypto when they can make a bunch of money off of it. Until then, they don't want your fiat leaving their bank and going into a crypto anything. And they will ask you 10,000 questions if you're trying to do it. So that's my recommendation. You might try Capital One. But again, do not say anything affiliated with crypto. Say it is a holding company to manage your alternative investments. And again, if you set it up with us, and I didn't talk about this, but maybe somebody on here is watching, they want to do that. A business account is going to be much better for, one, mitigating taxes, liability and protections, and then lastly, keeping your returns from getting frozen when you move them to your bank account, especially if you've had less money before and you move a large lump sum into your bank account. The banks can be like, whoa, where'd this money come from, and potentially lock your account. But if it's a business account, it's a business transaction coming from an exchange, they're fine, even if it's a large amount of money. But if it's in your personal account, look out. They're going to flag it. But yeah, so if you want to work with us, I didn't get to that part. If you want to work with us to set that up, you can absolutely go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, go to the services page, and there's a form to fill out for the LLC. We do everything for you, end-to-end: registered agent, EIN, articles of organization, certificate of good standing, the annual report, corporate veil, virtual office, hopefully bank account here soon, template for the operating agreement. If you go to an attorney to get the template that we draft for people, it's somewhere between $1,800 and $2,500 minimum. Could be more than that. If you want everything all of end to end done, it's $2,000. If you use the code 50OFF, 50OFFDAG, like Digital Ascension Group LLC, that's 50OFF DAG LLC, get you everything all in for your LLC to manage your digital assets and set yourself up for the most success on the other side of price appreciation. Um, it's not worth it if you have less than 50 to 80,000 in your portfolio. So if you have less than that, don't pay us any money. Don't go set up an LLC yet. The ROI on it's not there. When you get to that amount, it's worth it. But until then, I would just keep buying more crypto. Your money's gonna do better for you there versus setting up the LLC. So, and we won't discriminate. You know, we'll set anybody up an LLC that they want to manage their digital assets with. I'm just telling you, like, I want people to get value from the services we provide, and I hate opportunity costs. So if you have less than 50 to 80,000 in your portfolio, like, don't pay us the money. Keep investing before you pay us the money. I'll just say that. Journey to six pack. Oh, okay. I like it. He says, hey Jake, if XRP goes to 750 by the end of the year or higher in the future, wouldn't that make the XRP too long leveraged XRP ETF the best performing instrument in history? What are the implications of that? Well, we trade, rolling futures in our strategy, where we've already made more than 5% on people's money last month in the growth fund, which is pretty cool. Here in August, we haven't caught a trend yet, but if we did see a big move like that to the upside, we would do really well. Now, this is what people don't realize on XXRP. You don't just leave your money in there. If you just leave it in there and you don't trade it, you're not going to capture the extra benefit on it. It's just going to be basically the returns on XRP, which will still be really good. Like, especially if it goes to $750, it'll be fantastic. But to get the 2 times leverage long, it's going to be in that move. You need to be invested in the stock in that move and then take profits, because it's rolling futures. So the leverage stocks like that, or the ETFs for the futures that are leveraged, they're made for trading. They're not made for holding. So and again, wouldn't play with leverage unless you know what you're doing. Most of the time, you do have to be qualified in order to even invest in that ETF. Like, your broker will have to say, yes, you meet the qualifications and, understanding to even be able to do this. But, what are the implications? The implications would be people make a bunch of money. There's nothing wrong with that. And I hope you get to the 6-pack, man. I got the 4-pack going. I'm back down at, like, I don't know, close to 10%, a little less than 10% body fat, hanging out at about 240. So maybe I'll compete again. I'm looking decent. Like, I don't know. You're always your biggest critic. You know what I mean? But best of luck to you on your journey to the 6-pack. Rock Corp says, Mr. Claver, the legend. My competition went great. 4 out of 4. As expected, still got a medal and interview. Told my posing was very good. Brought more XRP back. Brought more XRP backstage too. Any more SEC surprises? Congratulations, by the way. Very cool. I recommend everybody does at least one bodybuilding show in their lifetime, and diets. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about your willpower and what you're capable of and how much you can suffer willfully when you do that. And it will give you a superpower that other people the amount of willpower that it takes to be able to compete at a high level in bodybuilding is absurd. It's 24/7, 365. And then you're starving yourself while you're doing a bunch of cardio and training your ass off. And eating on a regular regiment. Like, your whole life is militant in doing that. And the amount of dedication it requires is extreme. But like I said, it teaches you a lot about your mental faculties, your self-worth, your willpower, a lot of things. I like that you bought more XRP backstage. And so back to the SEC, I think, Ripple hasn't actually withdrawn their appeal in court. They said they were going to, and then didn't. And neither has the SEC. So maybe they're going to file a joint deal where they both remove their appeal at the same time. That's kind of what I'm expecting at this point, because we still haven't heard from the SEC on that case. But they seem to be, again, they put out the forward guidance and actually gave some guidance on, staking and all of that. So, or liquid staking as not a security. So excited to see that, excited the SEC and, Paul Adkins and everybody there are actually, championing the space and providing real guidance. But I do think that there'll probably be some type of joint thing. Danny says, how does your family handle that you eat, drink, and sleep XRP? I really don't. I mean, I do. I probably only checked the price of XRP twice today. But I was so busy on calls, meeting with people, working new partnerships, again, stuff that I'm excited to announce and bring to you guys, building out product roadmap, having meetings with executives on our team, other people's within the board, making sure that everything's moving in the right direction. I mean, our whole business is built around XRP's success, right? Because we believe that that's inevitable. But at the same time, I eat, sleep, and drink my business every day. My business happens to do a lot with XRP, but yeah, it's definitely more focused on creating products and services and doing all the things that we want to be able to help people that have a bunch of XRP. We got Alcatraz for you. It's an interesting name. After getting everything set up correctly, LLC and trust, is there a way people that want to help a monthly amount instead of giving them a chunk? If so, can you explain, and who pays the taxes? Thank you, sir. If they're a 506(3) or 50C3, you just don't make a donation to them. You can also gift, up to $18,000 a year to your children or other people in your family, tax-free. You just have to fill out the 709 form on your tax filing. It's tax-free to you and tax-free to them. You're offsetting your income. You can write it off if you have a business. I saw a deal today. So I was at a conference today, meeting with a couple people. And so this is a good one that I didn't even know about. You can set up a family pension plan, and you can write off up to $500,000 per year that you donate to your family pension plan. So you're talking about paying people. They could be the beneficiaries of the family pension plan, and they could get paid out of that. Now, that would be income. That would be taxable to them, but it's a write-off for you, and you can put it in the pension plan, and it can be invested, and it can compound in their tax-free also. So definitely a strategy that we will be employing with our clients moving forward. I thought that was very interesting because he juxtaposed it with the guy that was talking about it. He said, you're trying to buy this heavy equipment that you don't even need to get a write-off. And I'm like, well, the wife does need the G-Wagon, but I don't need a tractor, anything over 6,000 pound under section 179 of the tax code. You can, use 100% depreciation on, even if you finance it. That's definitely something that we look at on a consistent basis for people to help them mitigate their taxes. But the family pension plan is very compelling, up to $500,000 a year. So that would be one way we do it. The other way you do it is just, gift it to them using the 709 form, up to $18,000. Or they could work for your company and you could pay them a salary, which you would have to pay income taxes on. Right, so you're going to pay W-2, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid on that for their payroll taxes out of the business. They're also going to owe taxes on that too, but it is a tax deduction for you. It's a write-off as an operating expense of your business. So up to you. There's a lot of different ways to do it. You could also make them, a minority owner and pay distributions. Then you could circumvent the capital gains tax, or not the capital gains tax, you still get that, the employment tax. They wouldn't have to pay the other 13.5%. Basically, it would just be whatever the actual income tax was from the distributions. And you can set that up in your operating agreement, your bylaws, where it's a monthly distribution that you pay out to people that are sit on the cap table. The Shermanator. I got this one now. I know what it is now. What's up, man? He says, "What's up, legend? I just want to give you a shout out to Sebastian Jennings on your team. Super digging the basis points guy. Buy. Great value. How much longer till we hit limit orders and ACH transfers into our securitized accounts? Limit orders should be coming in very short order here. No pun intended. They've been working on that for a long time, and they finally got that across the line. Supposedly, maybe the end of this week. Don't hold me to it. That's a hearsay on my side. I'm hoping. And then the reason for that is like we have a lot of people that want to take profits at certain levels that are in institutional custody, and I don't want it to be an onslaught of calls to our 12 advisors that are managing over 1,000 accounts when the price goes up and people want to take profit. We need to be able to set limit orders. Like it's a big need in our business. And I'm hoping price holds off till Friday. So we can get that across the line and make sure it's in place for you guys. Now, ACH transfers, good luck. And Anchorage is a bank. I love them. They're a fantastic partner. They bend over backwards and do a lot of good stuff for us. That's just low on their priority list, I think. We want it, obviously. And for them to be a banking institution and not have ACH is like odd, but it is what it is. I'm working on, I don't know how much I want to say. We're working on another solution that I think a lot of people would be really excited about if we can make it happen. I just started that conversation Monday this week. Monday evening before I got on my live with the counterparty. Everyone here would know. And we'll see what comes about on it. But I think it'll be a good deal. We've got Doc77. He says, hey, legend. What's up, man? He says, let's pretend I have 10,000 XRP. I sign on with Digital Wealth Partners and take advantage of institutional custody. At the end of the year, it hits $1,000. How much money would that earn me per year going forward? It would depend on what product or solution you have it in. So we're looking to bring yield to market somewhere around like guaranteed 4% on your XRP just sat there in the accounts. You know, again, that's what I was alluding to and talking about at the beginning of this. All these things that people have wanted for a long time where you would just park it with a bank and earn interest, we're actively working to execute on, which is just fantastic. So that's kind of the low end, risk-free, set it, forget it, don't worry about it, make money. That's what we want in the short term here for people. So if you had $1,000, you had 10,000 times 1,000. So we got $10 million times 4% of $10 million be $400,000 per year. Yeah, that's right. 400 grand per year. So let's cut that, into monthly. If it was 360,000 per year, it'd be $30,000 a month. So at 400, you're looking at, I don't know, whatever the difference is there, 30-something thousand dollars a month in income. Pretty good for not doing anything but just sitting your cash or your XRP in an account. Now, what we would do in most, I don't know what your age is, I don't know what your time horizon, I don't know your risk tolerance, or financial advisors would assess all of that with you. What I think the most likely scenario is for most people is they'll have their lifestyle number. Maybe it is 30-something thousand dollars a month for you. I don't know. Probably less than that, right? So maybe we take 50% and we park it there, and the other 50%, you put in some stuff that's not high risk but more aggressive. The hedge fund that we currently have that does income and in-kind returns for the growth fund. So we got income fund and growth fund. They're 506Cs, only accredited investors, so I can talk about them publicly. They, we're targeting, doesn't mean we'll hit it. We're targeting 8 to 16% a year on those. So if you married half your bag, at 4%, with half your bag at, let's call it 12%, you're going to meet in the middle there at 8% per year, which would be pretty good. Pretty good on $10 million, making you $800,000 a year in passive income. So that's how I think about it. And again, you're diversifying your risk, and you're kind of getting your cake and eating it too, and still leverage long on XRP. Don't have to sell it. Don't have to deal with tax implications. Could borrow against it. Bunch of other fun stuff there. We got Dustin Drift with the super chat. Thank you, brother. Rob, what's up, Rob? He says, "Hey, no questions, just thank you. Having found you is changing not just our lives, but those around us as well." Very cool, man. Thank you for that. Some days are rough, and it is really nice to hear kind words from people. And you've always been supportive. Thank you for all of your help in the mastermind and everything that you do for everybody there. If you guys do want to be part of the mastermind, you can join. You just use the code right up here at the top. It's Beyond Broke, the number 1, and then MO. Doesn't get you a free month. I always want to say it. Doesn't get you a free month anymore. That promotion is gone. It will never come back. There will never be a free month for the mastermind again. But you can join for $2 and try it out. Get in there, get in the Discord, see what it's all about. Do the hokey pokey. Turn yourself around. Yeah, we would love to have you if that's something that sounds cool to you. So again, in real life events, private investments, a lot of education, drinking from a fire hose there. There's more stuff there. We've got multiple years of cataloged information for people to go through around the wealth management, the LLCs, the estate planning, trust, credit repair, business credit, other types of investments, private equity, real estate, you name it. We've had somebody in there come in and talk about it. Offshore trusts, trigger trusts, different types of trust structures, insurance, PPLI. We try to have real good experts come in there and talk to the community and bring value. I need to have a couple more people on here in the near future. So if that's something that sounds good to you, we do have town halls every Monday and Saturday earlier in the day. So we have these late, catch a lot of people from Australia on these, which is cool. But if you're in Europe, you're up late. And you're going to get a lot more value from the mastermind because we do like 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on Saturday and 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on Monday. It's just going to be, while you're awake, or you should be awake if you're in the mastermind over there, if you're in Europe. And we do have a couple of people from Japan that are up there late for those. So again, shout out to Phil and a couple other people there. I appreciate them there in the mastermind. We have almost 6,000 people there in the mastermind, which is just mind-blowing. Again, super blessed and grateful to have everyone want to be a part of the community, and we'll continue to bring value there to those that want to participate. And again, over here on TikTok, here, YouTube, and X, if you do want to check that out and see what it's about, go to beyondbroke.com and use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, MO, like Mary Oscar, get you the first month for $2 there in the group. And yeah, it's month to month. There's no contract, cancel at any time. But to have 6,000 people in there, I don't know if that tells you much, but all those people are hanging around and not going anywhere every single month. If you do, stick around, social membership's $25 a month, and then Carbon One's $100 a month. We have the ability to borrow against your digital assets, Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, XRP, through an exclusive partnership there. We have a health share plan. So if you don't have insurance or you're self-insuring, might look at that. A lot of good stuff there for the community. We try to provide more value there than we for sure do, provide more value there than I've ever had in any other mastermind group that I've been a part of. For way cheaper. All the other groups I've been a part of have been a minimum of $3,000 a year, and it's a full year contract. Justin Kincaid, what's up, man? He says, say Russia doesn't comply by Friday. Does the price of oil spike because of the sanctions on Russia affect the reverse carry trade. Sounds like a win for us. Wake up, Uncle Danny. Yeah, that's plausible. Very plausible. I'm ready for it, man. That's seeming more and more likely. I like your thought process. August feels like a good month. I'm excited about August. Also excited about November. We got Cotton Clark. They say Cotton here. Just signed up my LLC for the LLC yesterday. Have a phone appointment with Lofton tomorrow to get started. Big step. Awesome, dude. Proud of you. That's awesome. But thanks for your insight and your creative courage to tackle this. Again, just super blessed to be around good people that helped me early on, gave me their expertise and their time. And, I shared my insights and, stuff on crypto with them. And it's been, a great marriage of value there. And I've used what I've learned to be able to talk about it here and put together services. And, again, I just want people to have the information. If they work with us, awesome. If they go out and they can do it on their own and they can find their own attorneys and they find other people, I just want people to be proactive at the end of the day. If you take nothing else away from the live tonight, start educating yourself on all of these things. You're going to be very wealthy if you're invested in digital assets, even if it's a small amount. These things are going to continue to grow in value over time. I mean, imagine if you had thrown $100 in Bitcoin at $1. You have 100 Bitcoin. You'd have, $10 million today at the current value. And that's going to happen again for a few of these other digital assets. Again, I should probably say this. Everything here is not for, financial advice. Nothing's financial advice. It's only for entertainment and educational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. I can't provide you financial advice. If you are going to make investment decisions, please consult with your financial advisor before making those decisions. If you need a financial advisor, you can reach out to Digital Ascension Group or Digital Wealth Partners, and we can provide licensed professionals to help you with that. Anything stated here by me are my opinions and my opinions alone. They are not the opinions of Digital Ascension Group or Digital Wealth Partners. The firms themselves do not have the same opinions as me. So sorry, I have to give my disclaimer for my legal. We got DFW Mike here in DFW, Mike. That's what I'm talking about, dude. He says, the man, the myth, the legend. Sorry, I was late. Can you start over? We're already an hour and 10 minutes in, Mike, and I'm barely down the rabbit hole here. So I am probably going to pick up the pace a little bit. And I'm sorry if I'm not as thoughtful or extensive in my answers moving forward from here on the super chat. So we got Toby. He says, what are the pro cons of owning XRP in an ETF versus owning the coin itself? A good question. So they're going to, it looks like they're going to pass some regulation around in-kind contributions and redemptions, which is great. But I do think you have to contribute in kind to be able to redeem in kind. It's not yours. Somebody else owns it. You could still margin it, which would be good, be able to borrow against it. If some of the other people we're talking to get their way, there may be some type of distribution that you're paid off the ETFs. You're going to have to pay additional fees. So like with BlackRock, their fee on the Bitcoin ETF was an extra 25 basis points. So not a ton. It doesn't track the asset exactly, but it's close. So you're not going to get a direct reflection of the price appreciation or drops. It's a derivative of the underlying asset, even if it is spot. I guess you could look at it kind of similar to gold ETFs. Like, why do so many people want to own the physical asset versus an ETF? Because you have it, you can use it in whatever capacity you want. You're not reliant. There's no counterparty risk, on and on and on. It's insured by you. You're responsible for it. Those are kind of the considerations. And again, somebody might want to own it through a structured product because it's easier. You can invest in it with your 401k. Victor, appreciate you on the super chat, brother. People excited about the partnerships. We got Outdoor 258. They say, hey, Jake, I wanted to thank you and your team for everything that you do. I also want to thank all the team members and the moderators for answering all the questions in the Brown Broke Mastermind. Carbon One member, thanks again. Awesome, dude. Thank you so much. Glad to have you there in the Mastermind. And again, to your point, shout out to the moderators there in the mastermind, because if we didn't have them, oh man, they do so much work. Living Legacy, Rob, Million Drops, Davis, Jojo, Future, myself, Max, and there's a few others as well. I'm sure I'm forgetting people, and just again, love everybody there. It's like a family. All those people have been here since the beginning. You know, more than 2.5 years ago, and the support means more than they will ever know. So thank you guys, and thank you for being part of the mastermind. We got Dustin. Here's the super chat. I missed the one above. He says, "Hey Jake, thank you for all that you do. I want to do an owner buyout of my boss's company, and I want to set up a strategic reserve. What all can I do for the company? Tenfold education purposes only." You can absolutely set up a corporate treasury for a crypto account, or a crypto account for your corporate treasury. Take 10% of the profits each quarter and then buy crypto with it. Maybe you want to be more aggressive than that. That's up to you. If you do a buyout, you're going to structure that. Sometimes it's going to be cash, and then there'll be some carry for the owner. Most of the time, you want him to stay on and train people and make sure that there's a smooth transition as he leaves the business, especially if he's got the relationship with the larger clients in whatever capacity or whatever business you currently do. You don't want to ever be reliant. Your business never wants to be more than 15% reliant on any vendor, any employee, or any customer. That's going to give you the most enterprise value over the long term, but it's also going to cost you the most to purchase it, right? So maybe if you are extremely dependent on one or more than 15% on one of any of those, you can use that as some leverage in your negotiations with your boss. That's what I've seen done in the past. If there's not reoccurring revenue, the multiple is also going to be substantially lower. If your boss is still working in the business, he is not selling a business, he's selling a job. So just a lot of things there on the actual multiple for the EBITDA that you could look at and how you're structuring that. I did M&A before I got into crypto and doing what I'm doing now. So very familiar with all that. I would recommend you read Built to Sell by Jean Warlow. He is Canadian, and he has a whole program around how to make your business as profitable and as valuable as you can. And a corporate treasury in crypto would definitely help that along. We already did this one by the Shermanator. Let's see here. Trying to get on down through the chat. Here we go. We got Jeremiah. He says, "What about the impact of the issues the government had with nobody wanting to buy the 10-year bonds?" Don't know if you're talking about Japan. Don't know if you're talking about US. Not sure what exactly you're discussing there. Jeremiah, sorry. I don't have the context to be able to answer, and I don't want to misspeak. Stephen, thank you for the super chat, by the way. Both Stephen and Jeremiah. He says, "Hey, Jake, thanks for continuing to help the XRP family. I have a few good questions. What's the fun there? Let's hear a little XRP tenfold talk." You kind of heard it over there on Paul Barron's podcast. We'll be chopping it up with him again next Monday on the Twitter Spaces at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. Actually, Tuesday next week, excuse me, the 12th. So, talk about BlackRock and maybe their affiliation with Ripple and XRP and all that fun stuff. I think that's the tinfoil hat you're wanting. Michael, he says, "I just read that the U.S. had a 10-year treasury auction today, and it kind of sucked." This must be what Jeremiah was talking about. He didn't give me, context on which treasuries. They apparently had trouble finding buyers. What are your thoughts, Mr. Clay Legend? Thank you for the kind words. they're going to have to start incentivizing people. 10 years from now, people are very reluctant to believe that the U.S. currency is going to continue to be around, especially at the rate that they're printing it. And so for that reason, people think that they may default, and it's going to be difficult for them to actually, pay out on those bonds. And so until, with that, the implications for that is they need to, drive assurance in the market that the U.S. is going to continue to be able to pay their debts 10 years from now. And the only way they're going to do that is to reduce M2 money supply in a pretty substantial move. And if they lowered interest rates, they would need to do that to be able to offset some of the inflation. Because again, I talked about velocity of money and M2 money supply being, married together to get the inflation rate. So I think that that's one way they could do it. They could lower interest rates and lower the money supply. And I think that would give people some confidence that they actually have the ability to reduce the currency supply to be able to mitigate inflation and also shore things up. And if there was, some type of gold-backed bond, like Judy Sheldon has talked about, that would go a long way also. And we should get those, on July 4th next year, which is the 250th anniversary of the U.S. So great question. And again, sorry, Jeremiah, I wasn't sure if it was U.S. Treasuries or the Bank of Japan or what type of Treasuries it was. But Michael here gave me the context, so hopefully that answers your question as well. Steve Madden. I don't know if you guys ever watched Wolf on Wall Street. I love that movie. Jordan Belfort. I've met him in person too, which is cool. Other than the fear of competition, what issues do the 42 banks contest with Ripple bank application, and how valid are they? They're just scared. They're trying to, push it out. They don't want Ripple to compete with them. And like I said for a long time, I was like, I don't know if Ripple's going to become a bank because they're going to compete directly with all the banks. But when you're not able to get the adoption, and similar to like my position and what we've built with our company, I couldn't get wealth managers to do what I wanted. I want it done a certain way. I know it's better. I know how it should work. Couldn't get them to do it. Nobody would do it. So you guess what? We did it. I went ahead and did it myself. And I think that's the point where Ripple's at. I think they're like, hey, we've got all this cool stuff over here to be able to use XRP and like cut your costs and save you a bunch of money and, increase money velocity and benefit everybody. And you guys won't do it. So you know what? Since you won't do it, we're going to do it. And then you're going to have to catch up. And I think that's the scenario that we're watching play out. And I think that's the reason they're trying to fight it. Victor says about the 43 banks trying to block Ripple from being a bank and the Fed bank. We just went over that, Victor. The same question, my man. I think that they, are tired of waiting on these banks to adopt it, and they're going to force their hand by doing it themselves. Got Steven. He says, hey, Jake, thanks for continuing to help. We already went through the tinfoil talk on XRP. Let's see here. Got a couple more. A lot of super chats. Thank you guys so much for the super chats. It really does help the channel. And again, if you are getting value here, please like, subscribe, share this with somebody you know. It does help the channel grow. We're over, which is wild. Again, 100,000 followers. I guess you have to have it for like a week, and then you can apply for the button. So we'll do that. And if we get the button, I'll put it over here on the desk, which would be cool. We got Andrus.io says for $5.89 on the super chat. Appreciate you, man. I see you. He says, hey, legend, can world governments use XRP to pay off their national debt if it goes up in value? Not pay off, but offset. So you saw when we repriced gold in 1933, we called all the American people to give up their gold, it paid them $20 for their gold, and then repriced it at $33 on the Fed's balance sheet to be able to offset debts and pay for the Vietnam War. Or maybe it wasn't. It was World War I. Whatever World War we were in at the time. One of the two. I think it was World War II, actually. I think I'm off. It's late. Forgive me. Okay, I'm not a history buff. I just know about the currency type stuff. So they repriced it, and they had liabilities and they have assets. Read on the camera here. Liabilities are up here, assets are down here. Reprice the assets. Now they're even, and you can cover your debts. You could cover your debts. It's not that you're going to pay them, but you could cover them. We don't have the assets to cover them, and our GDP is not producing enough to be able to pay it off either. And so now we're in the chance of like defaulting. Once you get to like 130% of GDP for your debt, you can't ever catch up. Like it's the negative flywheel. That's where we're at. So they need something to offset those liabilities on our balance sheet, and that's what it is. It's going to be digital assets that are sat on government's balance sheets and institutions' balance sheets and other things. And as soon as they start using it, or there's a supply shock where they can start using it because the price rises enough, that'll then become a tier 1 asset, just like gold or U.S. Treasuries. And it'll sit on their balance sheet after it's appreciated or while it's appreciating, and offset the debts that way by becoming an asset on their balance sheet versus the liabilities. Rob, again, man, what's up? He says, hey, have you heard anything about the impact of Japanese inflation due to the rising cost of rice? Chicago, I wonder if a cheaper venue in Oak Brook. Yeah, probably there in Oak Brook. We could look at that. Yeah, so kind of like eggs here in the US, it's something that everybody consumes over there. And so there's been some pretty significant inflation on rice, but it's not going to be anything that causes the reverse carry trade to unwind. We got Brian. He says, what's your thoughts on portfolio of mostly XRP with small amounts of XLM and XDC? And would you move to all XRP? I tried to do what you're talking about, and I couldn't do it. I always had hesitation. I always wanted to move it all back to XRP. So I finally just caved and did that. And that was in 2022, and I haven't looked back. Because the appreciation on XRP, and I'm in a weird spot. I'm not your normal guy. We've had, well, just some guy on the internet. But I've been blessed to have a lot of conversations with people in certain positions that talked about XRP in certain capacities. And so for me, I have a lot of assurances that maybe the average person doesn't. And so that's the reason I'm all in on XRP. But most of our client base with Digital Wealth Partners and Digital Family Office is diversified, as you mentioned here. They have an allocation to all 3 X's. We have Matt Hill. What's up, Matt? He says, for us in Australia, how important is it to move your existing XRP into a trust or LLC, even though they seem quite hard to do from here? I'm worried about you being right on price appreciation and me paying a lot of taxes to Australian government. You will, sir, especially if you're in a self-managed super fund. They're going to whack you guys hard for the unrealized capital gains on the XRP and other digital assets inside your self-managed super fund. Very important. If you do think the price is going to rise dramatically, to get it into a family trust, if you're going to stay there domestic in Australia, or if you plan on moving abroad, somewhere in the Middle East, UAE, Dubai, Singapore, BVI, there's, Cook Islands. There's a couple different places that we've seen a lot of Australians move their assets offshore to. It is more expensive. It will take time. A family trust is also, not cheap, especially because when you move the assets in, they're going to have to pay the taxes on them. And you may have already seen some appreciation. It would have been cheaper to do it when XRP was like 30 cents versus what it is now. But you would still be much better served now versus $1,000 XRP. So up to you. We work with Consensus Layer there and Tax on Chain. Both those guys do great work and can help you, set those things up there domestically in Australia if you plan to stay there. Snake. What's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, it's worth noting that an oil embargo from the U.S. is what triggered Pearl Harbor. The Japanese have always been vulnerable with oil. It's very interesting, Snake. Very interesting. So you guys like the tinfoil hat, so I'll give you some tinfoil hat. If you go check out Bearable Guy, people may or may not know who this is. He posts on Christmas every single year, almost the day before, most of the time. has to do with XRP. I had a Reddit for XRP for a long time and then moved over to Twitter, or X now. And in 2024, last year at Christmas, on the Yellow Brick Road to the harbor is a clam with a pearl in it, which I think alludes to, Pearl Harbor and Japan. So, again, to your point, I think there's going to be a lot of similarities here between other macroeconomic events there in Japan, and to your point, the vulnerability to oil. Honest Aim says, "Hey Jake, he's a legend. Thank you for the kind words, man. Excited for the new Dallas office soon. Remembering long ago when we joined a very small band of XRP people. Blessings for your leadership and our entire family on the train. Hi to the tea lady. Thank you. Hope you guys are doing well. Excited to have you and your whole family in the group at this point. And again, yeah, definitely look forward to seeing you guys at the office in the near future. Yeah, what a ride. Not even, and it's just getting started. Like, there's going to be so much more memories and good things to come." Sunny says, "Is 4K XRP enough to create generational wealth in 10 years? Broke old lady here. Oh, you are not. If you have XRP, you're already rich. And crypto newbie. Yeah, for sure. In my mind, again, like, I'm not a financial advisor, not giving you financial advice, but if I'm anywhere close to right on a $10,000 XRP or a $50,000 XRP in the time frame that you mentioned there, yeah, you doing just fine with 4,000 XRP. Yeah, and you got somewhere between what would that be, $4 and $20 million? You're doing okay. We got Mark. What's up, man? He says, Jake, the Ripple Renegade. Any idea on how much longer until the next leg of the bullpen kicks off? I've been checking in daily, and soon it starts to feel like lifestyle. What's your gut say? I'm not a TA guy. Not a TA guy by any means. But what I'll say is, based on the pattern on the chart, it looks like a very small pattern in comparison to what we've seen for the last 7 months leading up to the bull market. I think within even the next couple days, you could start to see the move upward from the current levels. And again, that's just me. I'm not a TA guy. I'm just looking at the pattern on the chart and kind of looking at it on the long-term time frame, the last 7 months, and then the last month here. It's all look pretty similar, and it looks like it's completed the pattern and should move higher in the near future. Rocket time. They say, tech is moving so fast. Could XRP be replaced by something better in 10 years? Cold wallet's obsolete in 5. Looking for legend answer, Rocket. You make a really good point that tech is progressing very quickly. However, banks and institutions and enterprises and governments work on a very cyclical pattern. And you can look at it and see that somewhere between every 80 and 120 years, there is a rotation and a new reserve currency that comes into vogue, and another one's kind of phased out. At least that's been the pattern over the last 500 years. Ray Dalio has written books on this. Other people have written books on it. You might look at The Fourth Turning, which talks about socioeconomic patterns in correlation with the changing currency cycles. This one's going to be a bit different because it's a agnostic asset that sits in the middle of all the counterparties and is trustless. There won't be one centralized currency or counterparty that the world's relying on. And I think because of that, it'll persist much, much, much longer than the normal period of somewhere between 180 and 120 years. I think it could be another like 2,000 years before we get another chance like this one. So, and again, I know how crazy that sounds to call something a once in 2,000 year opportunity. Like, who am I to say that? I'm a 33-year-old guy. Like, I don't have the life experience or wisdom to call that one. But in my mind, that really is the scarcity and the opportunity that's at risk here for people that miss it. So, to your point or what you asked, I don't see anything. Certain people have said that XRP is out of this world, whatever that means to you. That was I'm not going to say who it was that told me that, but you've also heard Greg Kidd say it. So I'll stick with Greg Kidd. Group One Gavin says, "Hey bro, feeling good today. I finally got my account funded yesterday with XRP. Boom. Yes. Can I send more from a different wallet to have ample XRP to cover my fees? Cheers." Yes, you sure can. Yeah, absolutely. You can send from whatever wallet, to your account there at Anchorage, and you can take it out whenever you need to. We are going to be able to whitelist wallets finally. That's the other piece. So, if you want to remove it, it'll have to go back to a wallet that you sent it from, or a new one that you whitelist, and they'll have to wait 48 hours or something for it to actually get approved. Harley F250 guy, nice. My two main holdings are in Bitcoin and XRP. I'm looking to borrow ROI, maximum ROI to borrow against. If I sold my BTC, I could acquire another 38,000 XRP. Capital gains would happen on that trade. General thoughts, thanks. I've had you're not alone. I've had a lot of conversations here recently with people that own Bitcoin and XRP. And I think that's actually really smart. Because again, I'm kind of like 70-30 on Bitcoin, that it goes to zero or it goes to 1 million. I don't know which one it's going to be. But I think, digital gold makes a very good sense and is a good narrative for it. Scarce, not ever going to be more than 21 million. Hard to move. I mean, it's not hard to move it. It's actually more liquid than most things. But you do have to pay a fee, and there is some latency. I think, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, so please don't take it that way. When you are, diversification is a hedge against ignorance. And so if you're unsure on something, you should be diversified. If you're 100% certain on something, you should put all your eggs in that one basket and watch that basket. That's why most people who have a business just keep piling money back into their business, because they know what they're doing there. They know that they can execute. They know it's going to generate returns. And so they continue to compound that at a much faster rate than it would be if you spread your money across a bunch of different businesses. And I'm bad about that. Like, I have all these cool ideas, and early on in my career as an entrepreneur, I had the lady in the red dress syndrome, and we we could do this, or ooh, we could do that, or ooh, we could do this. I've had to consolidate over the years and hone in on one specific thing, and it is private client services for people with digital assets. That is what we do. Using progressive tech and the technology and all the other stuff that goes along with that. But at the end of the day, we do private client services for people that own digital assets. So anyway, back to you though. If you're not sure on Bitcoin, if you think it goes to 1 million, or you're not sure on XRP and you think, Bitcoin may outpace it in the returns, if that's what you're in it for, or if it's just a hedge against the dollar, maybe you own both. Like I said, I met with a lot of people here recently that have, somewhere between 2 and 30 Bitcoin, and also an allocation to XRP. So there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're 100% certain on something, I would bet on the thing that you're 100% certain of. Again, not financial advice, just to some guy on the internet, my 2 cents. Work hard, play hard says, are the odds lower than we're for XRP to go a 750 by the end of the year? Are the odds lower? Not sure what you're asking here. You typed it weird. Or it's late and I can't read, which is also possible. I don't think the odds are going lower. For it to get that level, like it has to be the perfect storm. All of these events have to play out like one right after another in the domino theory, and that's the only way it's going to get to that price by the end of the year. My objective with that bet was to get everybody that had lost XRP to scams to be paid back, and that's going to happen either way. So I won the bet, even if I don't win the bet. Maris says, "Hey, legend, appreciate you. What's the go with Astra August, September, want to retire, drive race cars?" That's a cool way to retire. I'm feeling good about August here. Feeling good. This person says, "Hey Jake, just wanted to thank you for being the foot in the door for the Good Old Boys Club. Can't wait until my assets qualify for your services." See, you get it, man. Thank you for that. That's what I'm trying to do here. Is I'm trying to get a seat at the table and then leverage that to be able to help everybody else. And so far, it's working, and I really do appreciate you. Mojo says, "Hey Jake, my friend is watching you for the first time. What advice / hopium can you give to new people getting into XRP and trying to learn more?" Advice or hopium? Be patient. Like, I know that's not what you want to hear. You probably want to hear it's going to the moon tomorrow. I rub my crystal ball. I'll turn it on here. It'd be nice if I knew exactly when stuff was going to play out. People that have been here a long time have definitely built up a tolerance to pain and perseverance and patience that most people don't have. And I think that'll help them be successful over the long term. Try to cultivate those traits would be my recommendation if you're new here. Have conviction in what you're invested in. Don't get emotional. It's going to go down. It's going to go up. If you get emotional too much either direction, you're going to make rash decisions. And anytime you're emotional and you can make poor choices. So one of the best rules that I try to live by is like wait 24 hours, see how you feel. If you still feel the same way, probably make that decision. If you don't, it's probably good that you waited. So try to cultivate those traits. Have a long time horizon. If these are investments are at least 4 years. That is an investment. This is a 4-year time horizon at a minimum. If it is, you're a trader and you want to trade these assets and make a quick buck, cool. Nothing wrong with that. Just know that's why you're here. And hopefully, you're cultivating the skill set to be able to do that effectively. There's not a whole lot of really profitable traders. 96% of people that trade lose money. The largest accounts at all of these custodians, Fidelity, Schwab, all of them, do you know who they are? I'll give you just a few more seconds to guess. It's a category of people, actually. The category of people with the highest returns and largest accounts at all of these, financial firms are dead people. People that didn't have beneficiaries on their accounts, and they've just continued to grow and sit there without ever being passed out. Time in the market beats timing the market every single time. So, that's my conventional wisdom for somebody that's new here. Patience, perseverance, long time horizon, emotional stability. Probably not going to get through all the super chats again tonight, but I'm going to try. I'm going to run through the last little bit here, and I'm sorry if I missed some. We got Desert Dave. He says, just wanted to know how you feel about iTrust Capital or Bit IRA to open a rollover from purchasing XRP and other crypto. Also enjoy the Mastermind on Saturdays. Awesome, brother. Glad to have you in there. We can do that at Digital Wealth Partners if you have a large enough sum. If you don't, both of those providers are just fine. You're going to need at least enough to buy, between your normal bag and whatever else you have in your LLC or trust, plus your IRA, it needs to be more than 100,000 XRP or at least $500,000. And if it is that, then we would have to, happy to execute the trade for you and hold the IRA there at Digital Wealth Partners in Anchorage. And we will have a way in the near future to be able to compound those gains inside your IRA that nobody else has. So excited about that. Jake, you the man. Opinion, appreciate you. He says, I'm curious, what's your daily routine? You seem so busy. Do you even sleep? I try to, not very long. How do you keep balance between work, family, gym, God, networking? Thanks for all that you do. You're appreciated. I do an energy audit and time audit on my day. And I'm most productive in the morning when I wake up. My brain fires really good. By the time I get here with you guys, I'm a little slower than I am earlier in the day. So I try to use the most of the morning for like the biggest boulders. I kind of eat the frog type deal. So I try to write down 3 things that I need to get done that day that would make the most progress if I could get them done. And that's what I work on all day. Sometimes that's, meeting with clients. Sometimes it's a project. Sometimes it's, helping our people, developing people. Sometimes it's networking. Sometimes it's raising capital. Sometimes it's getting a deal done. Every day is a little bit different. We've got 22 companies underneath the portfolio of stuff that I deal with. Probably 6 different segments of business that we work on a regular basis. I have CEOs at a couple of those companies that are separate of myself. I'm meeting with executives. I do all of my weekly meetings with executives on Mondays so that I can stay in that same energy and kind of line. And I'm tired by the end of the day, but I get through all of it and everybody is always on the same page. And then we can run through the week and make sure that they get all the reports done by the end of the week so I can look at them over the weekend. And then we can have an effective call on Monday to realign and make sure everybody's headed in the right direction. I tend to spend, a couple days a week driving into Dallas. And I do a lot of personal development during that time. So I'm reading books, audio books, or listening to podcasts, or, aspirational stuff. And then I wake up early to get my cardio in and go to the gym. I go to the gym most of the time in the evening, try to spend time and eat dinner with my family. That didn't happen today. I was at a networking event in Dallas all day long, meeting with new potential partners and other clients, and then came home late and I got on here with you guys. So sometimes I don't get dinner and everything with the family. And anytime you are obsessed is probably the right word. Anytime you are working towards something that is going to require everything and is exceptional, you're going to be an exception. And by definition there, you're going to be unbalanced and leaning on whatever that is most of the time. But I view this as a season of my life. I'm trying to make more time for my family and do things. A date night with my wife every Thursday, religiously. I don't let that one slip anymore. Try to make time for her and my son. And I'm able to do that a little bit more now that we have some other good executives within the company. But very diligent about my calendar and managing my time. And I have an assistant that helps me with all of that. I'm able to delegate some tasks and she's able to, accomplish a lot of things that would take a lot of time off, my time or plate to do. That's been a sweet life hack. If you can ever afford a personal assistant, if you're making more than $100,000 a year, hire an assistant. Hands down, one of the best things I've ever done. To be able to free up my time and energy and my ability to, continue to do the things that I'm good at, not get bogged down in the menial tasks. So anyway, hopefully that provides you some insight. I don't know if it provides you value or not, but those are some of the things that have helped me and what my day looks like most of the time. Hey, mate. Steve says, thanks for everything that you do. Where do you see XDC going as an asset? Is it possible for $100 per token? No. 1 to 2 digits, I think, is very reasonable. $100 per token, I think, is highly unlikely. Possible. I would love to be wrong. People would make a bunch of money. I don't think that's, and I'm like wild out there on prices on stuff. I don't see the catalyst that would push XDC to that level. But again, love to be wrong on that. Steve says, let's start a drinking game for Mondays and Wednesday nights. Going forward, don't state it for others to know after tonight, what question would be the trigger? Oh. Does this provide you value? I guess when I ask that, that's probably the question that would get you the most drunk. Happy Days says, with your cheap, cheap transaction fees on executing orders upon sale, can you deposit directly into Australian banks? Yep. Wire it straight there. No problem. Phoenix says, great experience. Already did the LLC and the institutional custody with Sebastian. One of your guys did a great job helping me out. Thank you so much. I'm getting lots of flowers for Sebastian, and I'm going to tell him that he's doing a great job, and we really appreciate him. And thank you for the kind words. And on the LLC, I think a lot of things are moving in the right direction over there. We've got some people have moved into management positions and come back over and are working through things and streamlining processes. So thank you. Shade Spot says, BG123 riddlers are crazy. I mean, a little bit, but you have to be a little crazy. He says, clearly they only want a certain type of critical thinker to crack the code. Maybe such people are the ones who need the money to help the planet move forward. But you're telling me everyone, dude? I think the people that have been here that have had the perseverance, which is a key word that Bearable Guy shared multiple times in his post, they're cultivating a certain type of skills, traits, and beliefs that you would normally get through, building a business or, struggles over a period of time to obtain a large goal. I think you need some of those, you really need those traits if it's actually going to stick around and work. Fast money loses money quick. If it takes you a long time to get something, it tends to last a lot longer. Rome wasn't built in a day, and it didn't fall apart in a day, right? People that are lottery winners tend to go broke within 3 to 5 years. So if they wanted to cultivate and also attract a certain subset of people, I think they did a good job with the way that they structured stuff. Krypton says, hey, Jake, congrats on the 100K. Thank you, man. Once we hit price appreciation and have 22 to 25 million and use Anchorage for custody, get dividends of 750K a year, how would my LLC pay me? Through dividends, ideally you'd pay yourself or your spouse a small salary, somewhere between 50 and 70K, and then any monthly distributions will be paid out as dividends out of the corporation to you and your spouse beyond that to mitigate the payroll taxes. Online Young says, hey Jake, I currently own 1,600 coins and buy more on a weekly basis. My dream is to become the first millionaire in my bloodline. How realistic is this dream in the next 3 years? I mean, you need $10,000 XRP. Yeah, sure. I think that that's quite possible based on everything that's going to transpire in the next 3 years. And kudos to you. Keep it up. We got Martin. Say, hey Jake, hola from Argentina. Would it be better for me to have an LLC in the United States or simply have a crypto in my own name in my country? I would like to work with you in the future. I would look at setting something up there in Brazil or another jurisdiction close by for you for a corporation, my brother. Selling HVAC. Mr. Schwartz said that permission domains equal liquidity doesn't come from bad peeps. It was updated last week, missing piece and reason for all the delays. Yeah, there's definitely a few components and amendments on the XRPL that are needed for the main network to be the adopted deal, but R3 already has all that stuff in place and would prevent bad actors from participating because it's private permission ecosystems, and they would still settle through XRP. So again, I'm not overly worried about the mainnet having certain provisions and things built into it because I'm pretty sure that the people that are using it for business purposes may not need that. The private permissioned ecosystems they've already created with the side chains and also, the siloed ecosystems that R3 Corda has, you don't have to worry about that anyway. Neil says, is the Beyond Broke app still available? No, we took it down. I couldn't log in, uninstalled. Now I can't figure out on Google Play. Can use the website, but prefer the app. Yeah, we had a lot of issues and bugs with the app. We had a lot of people complaining about the app. And so, there's a lot of time and effort that was spent that we could be spending on other things. This is the stuff I talk about, like opportunity costs. Sometimes you got to know when to call something quits. We took a lot of time to build the app and put it in place and get it listed in the App Store, and then the amount of uses that we were getting from it and the benefit that people were deriving didn't outweigh the costs or the bugs and the additional time. So we just decided, we're going to shelve it for now, and maybe at some point in the future it'll come back. But right now it is not operational. Danny Perez says, how's reverse carry trade going to affect the real estate market and economy in general? Is it a good time to buy, and what should I be looking out for? There's a lot of people that are going to lose a lot of money, Danny, and they're going to be in bad spots, and you're going to be able to pick up distressed assets. That's why Warren Buffett has almost $400 billion sat on the sidelines. We got Neil and 4. Hey, Jake, let's say one has 10,000 XRP and is a part of the Mastermind group. Would a $50 price point make it where one could start the family office? No. Family office really doesn't come into vogue until 20 million or more in value of your assets. For the amount that you mentioned there, that would just be $500,000. We're probably going to raise the minimum, and I know what actually is that 5 million? Let me do the math here. Make sure I'm right before I tell you wrong. 50 times 10,000. I used to be able to do this stuff right off the top of my head with the zeros. Yeah, it's just 500,000. Okay, I had that right. Just 500,000. I know that sounds stupid. We're probably going to move the minimum once there's a $10 XRP up to $1 million. On the other side of price appreciation, and that'll be the minimum for people there in the mastermind. People outside the mastermind will be the 20 million where the family office really is. And really, that's still not quite enough for a single family office. You need about $100 million for a single family office, but for a multifamily office like we provide, 20 million is kind of the minimum. I put a link in your YouTube comments today from the SEC now requires 6 months of futures trading before it approves spot crypto ETFs. XRP goes live October 21st. If that's the case, that would be great. That's still going to take a little bit of time, though. So that means you have more time to buy. We got Peaky Blinders. What's up, dude? Hey, good to see you, man. Glad you're doing well. Appreciate you taking the time out to get on here, and it's good to see you. He says, doing what I can to come back to life, brother. It's good to see I've avoided everything for months now. I think you know why, but I have to get back to life somehow. Hope that I can. Love you, bro. Yeah, sorry that you've been dealing with what you have been, brother. There's a lot of people that go through rough times in life, and I'm glad to see you back. People care about you. People want to see you here. So just know that, and you are appreciated, and you're a good guy. So stick around for us, okay? Money Shark, he says, for the truth said, he likes you a lot. You and for truth are my favorite XRP YouTubers. Awesome, man. Appreciate that. Trying to get through all the super chats before we call time here, but I don't know if I'm going to make it. Chaos when the reverse carry trade unwinds. We think in a pretty good price drop, as in good time to max out the bag, following price appreciation, of course. Thank you. Maybe Stilo. I don't know. I'm not going to play with the liquidity crisis. I'm going to sit around and have my bags packed and ready to go. I'm not playing with that fire. So if you want to set some limit orders and see if they'll fill, more power to you, but it's not something I'm playing with. Jamie Duncan says, hey, Jake, you mentioned about opening up an office in Canada. Do you happen to know where and when that might be? It'd probably be in Toronto when we get around to it, and it'd probably be sometime toward the end of 26 if I had to guess. Don't hold me to it. I'm just complete, shoot from the hip type deal. High Desert Dave says, Jake, the second chat, what's your take on iTrust and Bitcoin IRA? Yeah, they're fine. They've been difficult to transfer some stuff, but they've been better lately. So yeah, I would use them. As if you don't have at least $500,000 to invest in that, they'd be good options. What XRPL amendments are needed for Codius, and what XRP spot ETFs demand? The immediate for delayed for Bitcoin was we are the new global go BC now. Codius is a separate platform completely. It just would use XRP to settle. It's a smart contract library that can be, utilized for derivatives. It's been shelved for a while, but I do think we'll come back around. So no amendments on the XRPL really required for that one. It's just, it would settle through XRP, similar to the EVM sidechain type deal. Hey, Legend, what are you doing 16-hour shifts? It's for 10K, 10 XRP. To how long for R2K? Yeah, I mean, most days is 16-hour shift on what I'm doing. And our team does too, which is the wild part. Like, everybody's working their ass off. So shout out to our team and everything that they do. Appreciate them. Omar says, where's the interview with Quincy? I did one a long time ago, but I need to have another one with Quincy. That's a really good call out there. Got Third Eye XRP says, Legend, what's your take on AI agent being used for finance? And what's it used in the future for retail investors? Its use in the future for retail investors. I don't think AI will ever be quite as good as human, because humans have creativity and can solve problems in ways that machines can't. Machines just make things faster and more efficient. So if you had an algorithm that would continue to flywheel, the more and more you did it, then that would be a situation where AI would benefit. But if there's regression where, as trading strategy starts to lose returns over time, and most of them work this way, AI is not going to be able to prevent that. You would need human creativity to continue to augment those returns and maintain that level of return. Like, I don't know that an AI could have also produced the same type of returns that Warren Buffett has for the past 60 years. That's kind of how I think about that. But it will be a very useful tool. And algorithmic trading does work for small amounts. So retail could definitely benefit from it. El Guapo. Finsa. Messed that up, man. I would like to move my stock account and convert to XRP. Do you think it's a good idea for 20K? Thanks for your answer. Can't give you financial advice. I don't know how you're going to roll your stocks into XRP unless it's in a retirement account in an IRA, which you could definitely do. Leader of Gen Z. I like it. I have 28,500 XRP. I'm 26. I've been stacking for 4 years. Have my LLC with you guys. Awesome, dude. Any extra advice for someone my age coming into wealth? Congratulations. You're thinking way ahead of most people. Kudos to you. You have a really long time horizon, so don't start living above your means or your income immediately, or add to your lifestyle creep. I would keep whatever your living constraints are for at least a year, with a lot of money in your pocket and your investments before you start upgrading your lifestyle, would be my recommendation. Because that temptation is going to be there, especially being your age. If you have the willpower and the wherewithal to not do that, you'll be very successful. Tad says, Jakester, Jakorama, making money. Thanks for all that you do. I have a family pension, something y'all offer. Yeah, I was just talking about this. Sounds good solution for financial literate family. Yes, yeah, that is exactly, it's a great write-off, up to $500,000 a year that you can donate to the pension for the family. So we are at the 2-hour mark. I like to keep these digestible for people. Again, appreciate you guys taking time out on a Wednesday night to hang out with me over here on TikTok. This person says I'm 78. I cannot wait a year. I'm with you, man. A lot of people are at the end of the rope on this stuff. And I don't know that you're going to have to wait. Like I said, I think August could be a good month for us. So if you do want to join the mastermind, we would love to have you. You can use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1. And then MO like Mary Oscar, also capitalized, for $2 for the first month there in the Beyond Broke Mastermind. Come check it out. We would love to have you. If you do want to set up your LLC and make sure that your assets are protected and you have the most flexibility to mitigate taxes and benefit yourself and your family on the other side of price appreciation, I would go ahead and do that. You can go to digitalfamilyoffice.io. You go to the services page and use the code 50OFF, 50 OFFDAGLLC. And then get you everything end to end that you would need to set up your LLC. And then last but not least, if you do have the LLC set up, you have at least $500,000 in portfolio value or at least 100,000 XRP. We would love to work with you at Digital Wealth Partners and provide you institutional custody and all the wonderful things that we have there. And I'm going to grab Jeff Young. He's got one last super chat that we'll run up the last little bit of the night for. He says, Jake, planning on taking a 50K equity out of my house to buy more XRP. I have 50K XRP now and want to join your group. Good move. I can't tell you what to do, Jeff, but I know other people that have done it. So, and they're not upside down on it yet. And I don't know that they will be. I think that they probably will make a bunch of money. But again, I'm just a guy on the internet. Can't tell you what to do. If you want to know what to do, you can absolutely reach out to Digital Wealth Partners and set up a consult, and they can tell you what to do because they are licensed financial professionals. And I'm just the guy that owns the firm. So with that, again, really appreciate you guys taking time out. We won't be back Monday because I will be in New York. I will be speaking with Ritesh, who is the co-founder of XDC there at Crypto Mondays in New York. It is a public event. If you guys want to go check that out, meet me there in person to meet him. That'll be great. Looking forward to that one. So we will see you guys Wednesday night, like next week, for the next live. So until then, appreciate you. God bless. And we'll see you guys on the next one.